Okay. Um, just talking to Colin, who's from Canada,
Yeah,
from Vancouver, right?
yeah, Vancouver
Do you
Island.
want to just say a little bit about yourself, whatever you want about what you do, what your interests are, and then how you came to be drawn to ayahuasca,
Yeah,
and
for
for what
sure.
reasons, if you don't mind?
Yeah, my name's Colin, and I'm just kind of like a regular guy, I guess. I work in like sheet metal, and I also self-employed, and I have a son and a fiance. My son's 6 months old,
Wow.
and yeah, I've been having very difficult time for a long time. Uh, I didn't even want to, but started smoking weed at like 13 years old, just kind of like to fit in with my friends who I didn't know started smoking weed, and they did. And I liked it, so I obviously kept doing it, and it just became a huge addiction for me. Um, Something I didn't really see a problem with all the time, but it definitely became a big problem. Um, I've had a very kind of like an addiction to like sexual activities as well. That kind of, my past was a bit traumatic for certain parts. Lots of domestic disputes in my household, and some babysitters that I went with definitely abused me and took advantage of me when I was at a younger age. So I believe that a lot of that stuff has had to do with the irritability and the anger and the darkness that I've compiled and that I feel on a daily basis.
Hmm.
I've been struggling with suicidal thoughts for the past 4 or 5 years.
Mm.
Um, yeah, just really dark depression. I started making music a few years ago, writing lots, and just a lot of you can hear it in a lot of my music. Um,
Is there a
yeah,
website that you have where the
yeah,
people can
you can.
access that, like
Yeah, if you
SoundCloud or
even if
something?
you just search up like my name's Colin Butts, but I do like an artist. My artist is C Butts, so just the letter C and then Butts, Butts, and there's a lot of music on Spotify, and I got lots of music videos on my YouTube channel. You can just find me on YouTube under Colin Butts. And yeah, so if you're interested in some of the darkness that I've gone through, it's in
Well, it's
all those songs.
cathartic, right? It's a way of
Yeah,
getting it out,
yeah,
like any therapy, or
saved my life, honestly. That
really.
mixed with mushrooms. Mushrooms was the first psychedelic that I started to dabble in, and I used it a lot to basically ward off the depression. It usually would last about 3 months at a time when
Mm.
I did about 3.5 grams, and when I did 7 grams, it the depression faded for a good 6 to 7 months.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's a testament to psychedelics in terms of helping trauma and anxiety and depression, eh?
yeah, big time, big
Yeah.
time. That kind of, you know, drove me to looking into more psychedelics and stuff like that. Like I did LSD a few times, and that kind of opened me up a lot to different thoughts and took away depression big time. Definitely boosted the serotonin at the time,
Hmm.
and yeah, there was a few years back when I started music. I was also I got diagnosed by my doctor for ADHD because I went and asked him
Interesting.
if I went and asked him, about a certain drug called Adderall,
Mm-hmm.
and I was quite interested in. I was hearing it in a lot of the modern music nowadays, and I was just curious as to what that was about. So there was a good 2 years of my life where I was taking Adderall on a daily basis, and that was about a year ago when my dad passed away. A year and a bit ago when my dad passed away, I stopped taking Adderall, stopped putting out music, stopped basically everything that I everything that I love to do just kind of came to a bit of a halt. And ever since then, kind of ayahuasca has definitely been calling to me a little more than it did in the past.
And how long have you known about ayahuasca?
I've known about ayahuasca probably since I was about 23 years old.
Right, so about 7 years.
About 7 years, yeah.
How did you stumble on it? Were you looking specifically, or did you just come across it? How did it?
You know, I have really bad memory from smoking all the weed, but I believe that it was probably along the lines of like looking into psychedelics, like after mushrooms, and watching maybe a few documentaries on psychedelics, and then hearing about ayahuasca and a few of those documentaries, and it definitely was one of the more interesting things that I've ever come into contact with, just researching.
Mm-hmm.
Every time you hear a testimony or you know, hear someone talk about how it's changed their life, it definitely moves you and brings out the emotions. I've always been a pretty emotional person, and yeah, it definitely is very strong to hear what it does for other people. And I came here to the light of the Shipibo, just to hopefully get that same healing.
So, as far as Light of Shipibo goes, how did you sort of come to them and find them in the first place? Just or your general research, and then what was the deciding factor that made you actually decide on this one?
Well, when it was a few months back, I was going through a really, really dark time, and I was looking at retreats. I had a little bit of extra funds at the time, which dissipated after we went to Disneyland instead of going and getting help. But I did some research, and everything was quite pricey to come here and do. Quite pricey to come here and do the medicine, but still a lot cheaper than regular Western rehabs. Like they were saying, it would cost about $38,000 to go and stay in their facility. And
for what length of time would that be?
I have no idea. I kind of, right after they said $38,000, I fizzled from listening to the information and thought, wow, maybe it's better for me to come here and try ayahuasca. And I found Light of the Shipibo by searching up more affordable retreats. And they came up, I believe, on Reddit, which sent me to Aya Advisors. And then eventually I went straight to their website, and I got into contact with Ivan. And I stopped reaching out after we spent our money to go to Disneyland. But he kept reaching out. And eventually, on another dark time, I came back to the darkness very hard. And I just, I said I needed help. And, I got my a little bit of financial help from my mom, who I'm very grateful for. She's helping me to be able to afford to come here with my son and my fiance at home. We pay rent, so we pay like $1,600 in rent every month. So I have to make sure that we're taken care of before I could go heal.
Sure. And your family were kind of conducive to understanding of you. You got a close relationship with your mother.
Yeah, I have a really close.
So she's aware of the situation.
Yeah,
that you found yourself in, and very supportive.
Yeah, she's always been listening to like all my music and stuff like that, and she knows I've been going through a hard time. And I told her about the retreat, and she looked into it, and she found it just as interesting as I did, and she agreed to help me to be able to come here.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So you came and you're here.
I'm here.
You're here now, right? Yeah. And now not only here, but your first ceremony under your belt.
Yes.
And before we go into the details, how do you feel today after this afternoon? We've had the hard ceremony. Yeah, everyone is pretty. It was a hard ceremony generally, probably. A couple of interesting things about that we'll talk about in a minute. So it's the afternoon now. It's late in the afternoon. You're pretty rested?
Yes. Yeah, I got some good rest. Yeah.
So you're feeling generally okay after?
Yeah, like I'm gonna hold off the rest of the day to go back to sleep. But I feel pretty good today. Like I feel like everything's really beautiful here. I'm a little bit homesick. Like I miss my wife and my son. It's really hard to be away from them.
Well, especially with such a new baby. I mean, he's only 6 months, so you've probably had a lot going on in the last year.
Yeah, and I almost feel a little bit of guilt for being here. But my fiance is assuring me that not to feel guilt, and she just wants me to come home better.
Sure.
Yeah, and I already do just one ceremony deep, and I feel very good. Like I'm ready to dive into the other ceremonies head first and just hope that they do as much healing as the first one did, maybe even more.
Okay, so just for everyone's interest, because obviously the reason I just said to Colin, the reason I like to do these videos is particularly with first timers, because for me it reminds me of my first time and what the state I was in and how it's changed me over the last 2 years. Completely different person, but it can be a slow process, as we've spoken about, depending on the depth of your trauma and how the medicine works for you. It can take a long time, which is a misconception for most people. It's not necessarily an overnight fix, and I like to stress that because I don't think that information's out there enough on the internet for people who are looking. If they have severe trauma, it can be a long journey.
Yes.
It's not an instant fix, because you've got such ingrained emotions that go really deep, especially if it's over decades, which yours is. Yes. Mine certainly is.
Yes.
So people have to kind of prepare for that and try and not think that, I'll be able to go and do my one retreat and I'll be all good. If that's the case and that's the way it works, absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
But in my personal experience, because of my level of trauma going back since I was about 10 and I'm now nearly 60. So I've been carrying that shit for nearly 50 years before I came to ayahuasca. And of course, the longer it goes on, the worse it compounds. So therefore, you've got more to get rid of because it's been building all of this time. Yeah. So from the start, it was really interesting for me because my particular ceremony was the first cup. I thought it was going to be a tough one, but I allowed Maestro. I wasn't going to try and manage it myself, which I do occasionally, but now with experience. But I thought, no, whatever's given to me, that's the reason, because I trust Mama, and as I said to you, I believe that it isn't just the ceremonies or in ceremony, the whole place, things happen.
Yeah.
And it's being controlled. And because I've seen too many synchronous situations where that's the case. So the first cup for me last night didn't affect me at all, like 2 hours.
Yeah.
But what was really interesting, because I'm lying there completely straight, just waiting for the first half an hour, which is nearly always half an hour for more or less everybody. Yeah. But then I was still aware of time because it was so new into the ceremony. I barely finished my first mapacho to get rid of the taste, because again, it was not a great tasting one. Not the worst, but it wasn't too good.
It's like a very woody, strong cough syrup.
Yeah, well, very, very woody. And sometimes you can have a licorice taste to it, but that's kind of
sure, yeah.
But, sometimes it's just pure foul and it's like that. But that wasn't too bad last night. So anyway, after about 15 minutes, what was really surprising for me was hearing you purge. Yeah. It hit you like I've never known it to hit somebody so quickly. 15 minutes, but not just where that might be someone coming up on it. It hit you and made you vomit.
Yes.
Like a lot, didn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
So what was that like from the very first sip, and then just, okay, what are you thinking?
Yeah.
And then to the effects in your body or whatever may have happened, that happened really suddenly. What was it like for you?
Yeah, well, I took my drink, I set my intentions, I held it to my head, I held it to my heart, and then I drank it, and I rinsed my mouth out a few times, of course, and then
The shudder.
eventually I laid back, and I could almost feel it right away, kind of flowing into me, and like it was, I could definitely tell I just drank something. It was almost like after you eat mushrooms, you know that you just ingested something that's about to do something to you, and you're aware that something is about to happen at one point. You don't know when. And slowly, my body kind of got like not hot, but like very kind of warm. And I felt it in my hands and my feet, and my whole body's almost buzzing by about 10 minutes. By about 10 minutes in, I was feeling very, very buzzy. Like my whole body was like vibrating with the ayahuasca. And then about 5, I tried to hold it back. I should have sat up. I was laying back, so I think that that's part of the reason I purged so quick, possibly. Like if I'm about to puke at home just from eating something that I didn't like, it's usually because I laid down, and then it's like, okay, and then you get up and run to the bathroom. In this case, the bucket was right next to me, so and I knew I wasn't going to fight the purge. If I felt like puking, I was going to let it go. And I did about 5 minutes after the buzz started. So you said it was about 15 minutes out. You're right. It was 15 minutes in.
Very, very rapid.
Yeah. And I puked it all up. And right as I started puking, Maestro started with the first Icaros of the night. And it, once I got that puke out of me, it felt really good. And I could vibe with the Icaros and start to really feel the effects of the psychedelic portions of ayahuasca. Yeah.
So the effects in terms of visions in your head at this point, or hadn't it built?
Well, at first I kept my eyes open, and I was I had my hands up, kind of like the Christians do. You know, I was accepting kind of whatever was going to come to me. I wanted to feel open. And then I was kind of tripping on my hands a bit, laying on my back and kind of just flowing with the Icaros a bit, and like doing weird motions kind of, and just kind of tripping a bit on my hand motions. And then not too long after that, I decided, I was like, no, you know, I'm not really here to just trip out on my hands all night. I'm going to close my mind and I'm going to close my eyes and go inside. And that's where things took a bit of a rough turn. A lot of darkness. A lot of all the.
Do you mean like feeling it as an emotion, or actual visual images that were sent to you that were
like
dark?
As visual images and emotions. Everything came up that was dark. The visions were all over the place. I do have quite a wandering mind. We were talking the other day about meditation and how it's hard to stay on one subject. So it was almost like one of those like really trippy psychedelic 70s cartoons, and everything was kind of so many shapes and colors and kind of like flowing and everything. I couldn't control where anything was going. I couldn't. It's almost like maybe I was trying too hard to think of something like that I wanted to work on, or maybe trying too hard to like decipher what I was seeing.
Yeah.
So I tried to just go with the flow, and just so much of my like pain from past traumas, and just like I had my hand on my head one time because I was just so like I was like ashamed of how I've been living my life, with and the way that I've been sometimes treating people, and the way that I act, and who I've become after a while, and it was really hard. It was really hard. I missed Lexi in that moment a lot, my fiance, and Peter. It was at that point I was very That probably went on for a good half hour, 45 minutes of not, I wasn't enjoying myself at all. I was in the darkest place that I've ever been in my life, more depressed and more suicidal than I've ever felt in my entire life. But also I felt safe because I was in the Maloka and laying on a bed. Like I wasn't going to get up and go kill myself mid-trip, right? But I definitely felt those feelings deeper and harder than I have ever felt in my life. And slowly I started to remember that I'm here for my addictions, because that's a big part of my irritability and what's been setting me off and bringing back, like those things have been masking my past traumas. Even though in the past I feel like I've forgiven people for my past traumas, I still feel that pain, and I masked it through, marijuana and sexual things, and I just felt, I just was very, very tough. But I remembered that I was here for my addictions, and it started fizzling. I remembered that stuff is in my past, and it should not define very much, if not any more, of my future. And it slowly fizzled out and started getting more into like loving vibes. Like I started that my hand was on my head because I was so upset with myself and how I've been. And then slowly my hand came off my face, and I started vibing with the Icaros again, and it really helped to have a good shaman. I think I've never experienced any other shamans, but I believe that Maestro knows what he's doing, and the way he guided that ceremony really helped me fizzle out that darkness at one point and focus more on, why I'm really here and what I really need to heal on. And it started switching over to love and light. And I had thoughts like, I had a random thought that was like, my fiance carried our baby for 9 months. I should do all the morning feedings and all the overnight feedings for 9 months.
Right.
She deserves that. She did a lot of work, and she deserves to, be shown that she's appreciated in that way, and she deserves to sleep in after carrying a baby and giving birth. I can't even imagine. And I had a poem that conjured itself to me, and it just came out of nowhere, and I could see all the words right there of this poem, and I repeated it to myself probably a good 10 or 12 times, so that at the end of the ceremony I would remember it. If it weren't for that poem, I might have even passed out in the Maloka for a while, but I really wanted to make sure that I got back to my room and wrote that poem down.
Right. So as far as the feeling of passing out, in what sense did it make you feel that was possible? So just things in emotions being overwhelming, or a combination of visions and the thoughts
in
of
the
regressing?
What? Sorry?
What made you that feeling of passing out? What made you think that was possible if you hadn't had that poem? Was your body or your mind just feeling overwhelmed that you may just pass out? Or
no, I wasn't thinking that I would pass out. I was just thinking I was very comfortable in there. The mattresses were just as comfortable as the ones that we're sleeping on in here.
They're proper mattresses.
Yeah,
good.
and
6-inch comfort. Yeah.
I don't know. I just was like, if I didn't have anything to write down, then I'd probably just sleep here because it's kind of nice, But I definitely had something I wanted to write down, and so I went and wrote down my poem, and I messaged my fiance a lot of the thoughts that I was having. I had this idea that Port Alberni could do like a hands across Alberni type thing. And it could, like, possibly go viral or make world news, and other towns would start to do it. And then, talking to Lexi, she reminded me that, I can't necessarily come back there expecting everyone to be on that same wavelength. I could try to pitch the idea to the mayor and see if she'll like it, but there's a good chance that not everyone's going to have that same passion for that idea that I had.
Yeah, there's usual accentuation of the goodness that can happen. In the bounds of reality, it's obviously not going to work necessarily, because it's like, as you know now, all emotions and feelings seem to be amplified like 100-fold.
Yeah.
So really good ideas think, wouldn't it be great if this happened? And that's just part of the way it works, and it's filling you with that sense of the good side.
Yeah.
Which is what you need.
Yeah, love was put aside. Love was put aside a long time ago when, I think it was Dennis, the lead singer of the Grateful Dead, at Woodstock. Really he encouraged everyone to tune in and drop out.
Right, yeah.
He was, and Richard Nixon didn't like that.
No,
he said, we need people. He dropped, this guy dropped out of the army and was just doing psychedelics. And Richard Nixon saw that as a bad thing. And he says, people need to be working. Yeah. People need to be going and doing the government stuff. People need to be a part of society. We can't just have all these hippies running around. So he classed all psychedelics as basically as bad as heroin,
that's right.
Which turned a lot of people off. Lots of propaganda around psychedelics, and they basically made it look like one of the worst things you could possibly do to your brain.
They did a good hatchet job on it, for sure.
They did. So aside from all the love and stuff like that, and all the random thoughts that I was having, I had some strong visuals, closed eye visuals, little bit of open eye visuals on sound vibrations coming from the shaman, and it was quite the first experience. It was about 2 hours in. I probably could have gotten up and walked to my room already, but I didn't. I really wanted to stay for the whole ceremony. I didn't want to disrespect the shaman by getting up and going to my room. So that's why I repeated things that I wanted to remember.
Yeah, sure.
And eventually, the ceremony came to an end at around 12.
Well, just so you know, because obviously that wasn't clarified for you, but for future ceremonies, you can't actually leave the Maloka anyway.
Okay.
Until it's finished, because part of the job of the shaman is obviously calling the healing plant spirits, but he's also protecting the space inside the Maloka, and he's protecting individuals from each other's cross-contamination.
Okay.
So there's a lot going on, which you only learn over time.
Yeah.
So for you to actually leave, the only exception is something serious happens, which did the previous ceremony, which you'll if I send you Helena's link later on YouTube, you'll understand why that was an interesting ceremony as well, because that was a new experience. I'd never heard of a ceremony being terminated prematurely because of something that happened.
Yeah.
Two things that happened, one with Ivan, and then that triggered her.
Yeah.
So he had to kind of end the ceremony for them slightly prematurely. It was nearly done anyway, but it was slightly before. But there's an example in that where a lady says, do you want to go to your room? Or she said, I want to go to my room, kind of thing. And she said, you can't until the ceremony's over. And that's why. So just so you're aware for the future, until it's called time, because it's about protecting from also dark energy outside, because you obviously were open.
Yeah.
So he's controlling all that space.
I had that feeling that I wasn't supposed to go. I wasn't told that beforehand, but I, just out of my natural self-awareness and respect for
well,
others,
I think Mama would tell you.
Yeah.
Not, obviously you haven't had the connection yet.
No.
Where you've got the voice. I think it will come in time.
Yeah.
In the next
it was mostly
2 weeks.
Me talking to myself a lot. Yeah.
But she's, in my experience, she's controlling your body, as we were talking about yesterday, where like even physical motions, depending on what the cleaning spirits are doing, what the Dr. Cetos that come, if they're being called, you may have caught a line last night in some of the Icaros.
Yeah.
Dr. Cito.
Yeah.
That's little doctors.
Yeah.
And depending on how they affect you, you might see visual representations of those, this sort of thing. So there's a lot going on in the ceremony.
Okay.
But anyway, you didn't leave.
No, I was glad I didn't.
Maestro, well, it doesn't matter.
It
just wouldn't have happened anyway. So
yeah.
But just so you're aware why for future. So we were just saying about Maestro being aware, and obviously there's only Alan who's only done one ceremony before you, but at least he had some experience of an ayahuasca ceremony.
Yeah.
And what I also found interesting, because you naturally wanted to, you think, well, I just want to get the best out of this as possible. And you said to Joshua, can you ask Maestro, I want to do a full cup too.
Right, yes.
And Maestro said no.
Yes.
So already he's judging you before that he's even taken ayahuasca, just to be on the safe side. I think he did explain that, we just need to, I need to gauge you first. So
he
just
said
get a third of a cup and then build up over time.
I'm glad.
But for the first one, because obviously if you took taken a full cup of ayahuasca, we don't know what may have happened.
Yes.
The effect on you could have been just overwhelming emotionally. Physically, we don't know because you didn't do it. But Maestro's got the experience where, no, look, you're a first timer. I appreciate your trust in him as a maestro. Joshua, obviously said on your behalf, Colin wants to do it, because Joshua always does a full cup anyway, first one, and then he doesn't usually take a second cup because it's enough for him, but he knows what he's doing. Same as I have my intuition about what that particular ceremony is probably going to be like for me. It all comes with experience, and with time you can gauge for yourself. When you've done enough, you can gauge for that particular ceremony how you're feeling beforehand, what you think it might be. And sometimes it's completely the opposite, but the point is you do start to realize that you can start to take more control depending on what you want, because up until that point I only used to accept what was given to me. And I've been on both ends of falling into that, which was like last night with the trap, what I call the trap. I knew I had to walk into the trap last night because I'm aware of it, but I knew it had to be done because after 2 hours, I was completely straight. So I thought, well, I can't sit here for another three hours or whatever, because I'm here for the cleaning. It's the first one for me. I've got to go through it, and I wanted to be tripped out in the bedroom because that's kind of interesting. But although last night it was not quite how I expected it, I did feel pretty rough, and I still do today. But anyway, this idea of you taking only the one cup, I thought, me personally, I was thinking, you want to do a whole cup? Not nothing to do with me, but personal experience, not a good idea for a first timer, because Maestro does need that first experience to see your energy and what's going on with you. Now he'll know you, so he will judge how much more you'll make you ready to take the next one. So in the early days, my advice, take it or leave it, it's up to you, but you might be better off just taking what's given, because Maestro obviously knows you enough now. He's seen into you after last night, so he'll decide what your first cup is. And then they give you the option, depending on how the first cup is affecting you. The general rule, which they sort of tell beginners, is if you see visions on the first cup, that's probably enough. When they ask, would you like a second cup? If it's starting to fade, Jenny might think, well, not when sitting here fading out the ceremony at this early stage after the first cup. And then say, I'd like to do a second cup, but minimal or something like that. Because this is what has to be stressed for people with ayahuasca. As I've said many times before, quantity doesn't necessarily make any difference, or it makes a massive difference because there's so much else going on. It depends on what Maestro may have planned from what he already knows about you, for what he thinks he's going to do for you specifically, that calls specific entities. And of course, you don't have a window into that in the early days, because if he's singing what seems to be repetitive Icaros doesn't mean that they're still calling the same things.
No.
They can be calling cleaning entities or Dr. Cetos. And what I mean by cleaning entities is if you might, like I have done, you might see a visual representation of them. And although they're cleaning entities, they can be harsh and scary, like octopus-looking goddess type things, you know. But this is just my experiences. Doesn't mean that everyone else will see it. But the point is, you might see representations of this, and the cleaning entities can seem to be no emotion, like I'm here to clean you.
Yeah.
I've been called by this shaman who I have to abide by because of who he is. This is the way I see it. You know, I read books on shamanism as well. It's almost, for my two main experiences of this, they are harsh and they're scary because you're just looking at this thing and it's got no emotion in it. It's just like, I've been called from like the nether depths of wherever the hell they're from. And I don't care how it's going to feel for you.
Yeah.
You're going to just suffer whatever's necessary for your particular conditions, your traumas. I'm just cleaning you, and I don't care about you in that respect. I'm not saying this is, other people would see this, but this is just my interpretation of some of the weirdness that can happen with these cleaning entities. But you start to get this, where you get the idea of, well, what is the shaman doing? You know, what the hell is he calling from a multi-dimensional area or wherever the hell? So as you get more and more into this, and I think you probably will. You've had a good start, and after the 2 weeks, I hope, and I'm pretty confident that you'll feel pretty good by the end of 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But first steps, baby steps, and that. So
I'll feel even better when I can get some salt in me at the end.
Yeah, well, that's not coming for 2 weeks, I'm afraid. So you're gonna have to just.
I feel pretty good though, eating healthy and stuff. It's just thinking about some of that airport food and stuff. Shit, definitely gets the mouth watering.
It definitely does already after the first meal of salads. It's like
Yeah.
But so after the vomit, you felt really good.
Yeah.
You went into a phase of feeling guilty for your past behavior. That's normal. For a lot of people, it was for me at various points, because you do. It's all part of removing that self-guilt, so you can start to accept that what happened to you was trauma related. It wasn't your fault. You're a child.
Yeah.
And this is absolutely key. And this is what she starts to work on, changing your self-identity, how you view yourself, leading eventually to something I still struggle with, self-love. But you have to get this big chunk of nasty shit out the way and suffer these traumas. And it's hard.
Yeah.
And everybody has to go through that to be able to, as I said to you the other day, think of it as the hero's journey, where you have to go to the underworld, fight your demons before you can pop up into the light. And then the ayahuasca experiences, generally speaking, have been for me, have been for other people I've spoken to. You can come into and have much nicer ceremonies. They can still have, because you always need cleaning.
Yeah.
This is just a component of human nature. And when you go away again, because you're been cleaned, dark energy wants to suck off you again.
Yeah. So
you get attached. So when you come back in the future, there'll be another cleaning period, like your first one or two again. Oh fuck, we got to. Oh yes, this is the new attachments. Go get rid of them and get back to where he was when he left 6 months ago. Whenever it is you come back.
Yeah.
So the first ones are always going to be difficult, because you've got, as I said to you yesterday, you've got this whole expectation aspect which you can't help to have. Disregardless of previous psychedelic experiences, nothing can prepare you for what ayahuasca can do.
Definitely.
And that never stops. Yeah. Every ceremony is different, and there will always be, wow, that's never happened before. Fuck, I've never seen that before. I've never had that experience before. All of these things continue, which is why it becomes an addiction in itself for many people. And what's really nice about it is, even if it's really hard, within a day of just resting, by the time tomorrow comes, you kind of get, wow, what's going to happen tonight?
Yeah.
I'm really, I know there's going to be bad shit now, probably. And I know vomiting's going to be there, and probably diarrhea and all that usual stuff. But what gets you going is, I wonder what she's going to show me next time.
Yeah.
I was talking to these people, I've seen these experiences on YouTube. I wonder if something like that will happen to me. And that overrides the negativity of going, fuck, I don't want to do this anymore. which does happen from time to time, and I've been through that quite a few times, where I've literally said, I'm not fucking doing this anymore. Why am I doing this? I cannot stand 6 hours, 9 hours of feeling like this physically, whatever it is. And then the next day, after your food, you're feeling better in the afternoon because so much more shit's been removed from you.
Yeah.
And then you feel good about it. So you know, and then that just confirms that it's working well for you, it's benefiting you.
Yeah.
And then you go, well, there's the proof, because now I don't really remember. I'm only remembering the interesting things that happen, like whatever Mum has shown you, what visions, or that was interesting. I wonder what it means, or the conclusions that you start to come to for yourself about what she was trying to show you, because you get bombarded in an ayahuasca ceremony. The information flow is just a rate of knots. It's just, but in my experiences, putting things together, it actually reprograms your brain. So you may forget it in your conscious mind, except for the highlights, the bits that you remember. But the rest of it, because there's so much information, especially when you get to a point, which I'm pretty sure you will, I'm confident that you will, I hope so, that you will get what I call the connection with Mama, where it's it's your voice in your own head, like it sounds to you when you're talking to yourself, but you ask a question and there's an answer that's immediate, like it's somebody else. It can't be you. And that's what we call, talking to Mama Ayahuasca, having this connection. But that can take time. It can be dependent on whether she thinks you're ready or not. Like you're not clean enough, or got enough bad energy out of you yet.
Yeah.
And there's no frame on that. It's just when you're ready. So best not to have an expectation, but it's nice to be aware of it, so that when it happens, you can. I mean, some people, she's really. First time, there was a girl here a month ago. She was very, very clean. No trauma. She wasn't like us. Had to get through fucking years and years of baggage and all the rest of it. She was very clean. A lot of meditation, kept herself fit. Her first ceremony, she met Mama Ayahuasca. She said she just appeared to her, like when the ayahuasca started working, the first visions were forming, and then this face appeared of an Indio type local grandmother who was all warm and loving, and just started smiling at her, and then started making her laugh and started dancing with her, and then she started talking to her. Wow. And that was her visual representation of Mama Ayahuasca, how she wanted to present herself to Chrissy.
Yeah.
So, but it's different. She can take on any form that she wants. She's done different forms for me over the last couple of years. But even if there's no visual, and I've only had it twice, visual representations, but once you've had that first meeting, every ceremony after that, once you get over the initial kind of cleaning phase where it's uncomfortable and you feel sick and vomiting, which you may still continue to do, but it's like a period maybe after the first cup, and then you start the second cup, the fear, and over time, it takes time for the fear to be removed from you. Your body's automatic reactions of what's happening to your body fires off anxiety, fires off fear. It can take quite a lot of ceremonies to get over that, depending how bad your trauma is.
Yeah.
But after that, once you're kind of clean enough and you start to have the fear and anxiety removed, so that you don't suffer that so much, if at all, in ceremonies. I still get the odd time where I get a twinge of it, but generally now I'm that clean that, and just pure experience, even dark things thrown at me, I'm aware that what I am in relation to that world and my relationship with Mama Ayahuasca, that I just see them, they're just visions. And if they're dark and they represent a dark energy, they don't faze me. It's just like, yeah, very interesting. You're not going to frighten me, because I know what you are and I know how to handle you. In fact, now you're boring. Sorry, I'm not going to engage with you.
Yeah.
And just, I got better things to talk to Mum about, or better things to talk about, or find out about. So bye, see you later.
Yeah.
And that's where you can get control of the visions. But yeah, they still get fired at you. It's part of the shamanic journey as well.
Yeah.
Shamans have to, as part of their journey, they have to deal with this bad energy that their shaman that's training them actually fires at them as part of their journey, so that they know how to handle it.
Yeah.
Because then, once they get to a stage where they are actually a shaman, these things, in my view, they undoubtedly exist for them, but they've gone on such a tremendously deep journey and much, much harder experiences. But again, like everything else, you can't fire that at somebody that's new, because you just overwhelm them.
Yeah.
And they freak out, or whatever might happen. But like everything else, it's training, like bit at a time, one ceremony at a time.
Yeah.
There's no need to rush anything. It's piece by piece, just as you need it, little bits, and that's the way it works. So you just allow that process to unfold in the natural way it's going to unfold for you.
Yeah.
And then in the integration periods between, that's when during the day you'll have little, like today, mini integration. If you're walking around with your camera, you might get thoughts. Just go, oh yeah, I've never thought about that way. I see. Oh, that's what that means. Oh, or relate to something that's happened in your past. Oh, that represents the resentment that I carry. I remember that incident, or whatever it might be. Something that you just didn't make a link with before. Parental abandonment, being closed down, bullied, all of these things, this is what will happen after your 2 weeks. When you go back, it can happen for months, and you can just be doing something at work, and out of the blue, like some insight will just occur to you, and it'll just be like, I never thought. Oh, I know, I get that. I see. And this is all part of that continuous cleaning. So it's a fantastic journey.
Yeah.
So you've got a lot to look forward to.
Look forward to the rest of it.
Yeah, because it's a really big part, and it's not to be underestimated. And it is true that ayahuasca continues to work long after you've finished actually in the retreat. In fact, that's just the beginning in many ways, because a lot's still going on, unbeknownst to you.
Yeah,
they're still working.
Oh yeah,
withdrawing stuff. Yeah. So it's really good. So the funny part last night, which another funny part, was when I left the Maloka. You were, and I, by this time it was really late for me.
Yeah.
Everything came on late. It was getting toward the ceremony end, and then oh shit, I started to feel like, oh my god, I'm starting to come up really strong. I thought, oh shit, man, this is going to be a long night, and it was. And I, as you saw, you followed me out because you were straight by this point.
I was ready to go,
and you could walk and didn't
Lots
need any
of
help.
still deep insights still coming through, kind of like the aftermath of mushrooms. Lots of deep thinking, but I was for sure good to walk. I could have hopped behind the wheel and drove home. Yeah.
But you saw the state I was in. I couldn't see.
Yeah, I stayed close behind you guys to make sure. Because
I was wobbling all over the place. Gina was almost
his back was already. I think that.
Yeah, I think it
was sometime when he was in the sleeping there or something. He must have tweaked it or something, because I could tell he was really stiff after he let you into your room. Yes, he was very stiff. So I was right there behind you guys. Yeah.
Because I was just tripping off my balls. Seriously, you'll probably experience that. I'm pretty sure you will, because it is the norm. Maybe the next ceremony, Maestro gives you a stronger dose, can push you a little bit further this time.
Yeah.
And then you'll have maybe your first experience, because Alan did as well, where you can't sleep and you're still connected. The ceremony is technically over, but Mama, or visually, is just showing you visions, even if she hasn't introduced herself yet. You might still be seeing visions. You'll still be having these interesting thoughts, different ways, and it can just go on for hours, and you can get exhausted with it, but you still can't sleep.
Yeah.
But if you get the heavy physical trip with it as well, I mean, I'm trying to enjoy it and just find it amusing when I'm staggering around, because luckily for me, I've actually got a conversation with Mama all the time.
Yeah.
And she, we can joke about it as well. Just take the piss out of me. She sort of slaps me around the head, and she's called me an idiot. No, but it's all fun. There's no, there's no malice behind it, because it's fun.
Yeah.
But you have to over time get that kind of relationship. But so after for the last couple of hours, what was going on? Were you just like coming down and just starting
hours of the
not feeling
ceremony?
too bad? Yeah.
Yeah. No, I was just I was definitely coming down. I felt like I would feel in the aftermath of mushrooms. But I sat up. I still vibed with the Icaros. I love when Maestro whistles. It's so good.
Oh yeah, talk about that, because being a musician, I never thought about it, but you actually dissected the Icaros in terms of a song meter. 4 bars, 8 bars.
Yeah, he definitely has a pattern he works by, where it's like the longer chant, and then the chant will fade out, but then he'll do another chant, like a really short one, and it'll be like, I can't like decipher exactly how long, but it would be like a verse, like a long verse, and then the tiniest little bridge, and then the whistle would hit almost like a chorus, and it was like, it really got me vibing for a little bit there. I loved it. I had like a little thought that this guy should start his own Spotify and toss his stuff up there, because people would love to listen to that.
Absolutely.
And you know, his whistling could be used for samples all around the world, and people could make some amazing tunes out of some of that whistling. But
it's like a little mini chorus, isn't it? And I always forget them after, like the next day. I can never quite remember them. But as soon as I'm back in the ceremony starts, it's like, you know what it is.
Yeah, and there's a few times where I just like made sure that I still remembered the stuff that I wanted to write down, and
and then you journal that when you got back to the room before you forgot it.
But I got it right up here.
Oh, do you know it?
Yeah.
Would you like to hear it? Yeah, go. It'd be interesting.
It was like, what am I seeing? All of these shapes and natural colors, celestial beings, and all of the stuff that's kept under covers. Where is my hearing? Somewhere in space, somewhere undiscovered. I guess that I'm healing. Ayahuasca, I'm blessed thy mother.
Wow.
Yeah. And
nice.
so I took that. That was the main thing I wrote down from my first ceremony, because it almost describes everything that I went through in the ceremony. It was just within those 4 lines. And the words just showed them. I like could see the words in front of me, and then it was really weird how that showed up. But I think it's because I'm a writer and I like to write rhymes, that it came to me in that form as a little bit of a poem.
Yeah, I mean, it makes a lot of sense, doesn't it, where you hear about the effect that psychedelics have on artists and how they produce, and even scientists. I was watching Graham Hancock the other night. That's a really interesting interview. Obviously, he's talking about his books and Free Civilizations, etc., mainly. But he was talking about, I think, the 3 notable characters. But the one obviously people are aware of, like the Beatles and stuff like that. They've done psychedelics. Many artists, nearly all musicians have taken drugs at some point, probably, or whatever. But he's also said that Francis Crick, who was the discoverer of the DNA helix, apparently said he was a closet LSD user as a top level scientist.
Yeah.
And he said, I'd have never have had the insight if it wasn't for LSD.
Yeah, for sure.
So
I've had that thought that like scientists and people could have some serious breakthroughs.
Yes.
You know, diving into something like, but I'm sure some of them are so closed off to the idea.
Yeah.
They're like, there's no way I'm gonna, you know, so-called what people would make you think melt your brain, whereas really this is probably going to solve some of the harder equations on the earth, right?
Or energy,
right?
Yeah, anti-gravity, whatever. That's there's all sorts of, but it does make you wonder, about anything that's groundbreaking. Who's really giving it to you?
Yeah, totally.
There's a gift.
Yeah.
She told me a story that I haven't told people yet, because the plot of the storyline is just so unbelievable, about Lucifer.
Yeah.
And who he really is.
Oh, yeah.
But the plot is just so unbelievable. And I was like in the ceremony, and Mama was telling me this story, and I just went, oh, Mama, come on. That cannot. I said, that's unbelievable. Nobody would ever see that coming.
Yeah.
And she just said, write a book. And of course, I'm not a writer, and I think it's too complicated. I'll just knock that way out.
Yeah.
But the plot, I think, if that was like made with like a Da Vinci Code movie, in that kind of sort of celestial, heavenly, elegant, the battle for Earth, against good against evil stuff. And what a turn up that would be, So, but the way it was just the way, and I was getting visions of like some of these films, a bit like, I don't know, think of Legion or Constantine with Keanu Reeves.
Yeah.
It was almost like a classic film heaven hell battlescape going on as well.
Yeah.
But just really interesting, the twist in the tale, and I was blown away. And it's like, oh shit! I wish I had the, because to actually, I did think about it, but I wouldn't be able to write it because it's to make that the climax of the story. It would need to be at the end.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's the finale kind of thing.
Yeah.
And you'd have to just be a natural writer and be able to invent interesting plots, how the situation arose, and
it sucks when
and all the protagonists and all this shit, and you're like, oh, it's just fucking.
You think of such a great movie or idea or something, and you're like, it's great that I'll never be. I think I had one really deep insight a long time ago on mushrooms that was some of the best ideas in the world are forgotten.
Yes.
And two drunk guys in the bar, probably absolutely. Sitting there like they're like, oh, don't you think this will be a great movie? And they're like, that'd be an amazing movie. And then they cheers, and then the thought's gone.
Yeah, that happens all the time.
Some of the best ideas in the world are probably forgotten.
And I think those little gems that Mama or whatever supreme consciousness just flicks in when you're in the right state of mind, but you don't know it.
Yeah.
But the potential. But it's wonderful, to be part of it, because I had a really tough. Oh, I was angry last night. And Mama just let me, she said, get it out. Tell me, you know what. She said, you want to swear at me? I said, I'm fucking angry, Mama. About, and it just went in. I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna do it separately, so I'm not gonna do it here, because there was so much in it, and it preoccupied my whole mood for the 3 hours I was back here.
Yeah.
Feeling like shit. But this angry, kind of frustrated conversation about nothing, everything being completely insane. They're noisy, aren't they, today?
Yeah, they're
beautiful.
Noisy. There's so many nests up in that one tree.
I mean, there's 10 or 15 birds in there at any one time. I was watching them today. I didn't realize when they make that call, they actually kind of bend over the bough and then sit back up with flick their tail. Like they kind of spit it out and kind of go, and then But and they're beautiful when this time of night. You can see the yellow in the tail.
Yeah.
The black one. So anyway.
Wow.
So, is there anything else you want to that comes to mind that you want to mention that was interesting that you can remember? Or
no, I feel like I'm ready to dive into the next ceremony tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll have a good day's rest tomorrow. Yeah. I don't know if they'll have anything planned tomorrow. Then, depending on the weather. We had rain this morning, but not later. Now it's lovely. Yeah. So if it's a warm day, they might decide to do the boat trip with that. I won't go on it again.
Yeah, and I think they said that guest that dropped out.
Oh, we've got the new girl. So we do the new girl who didn't turn up. She's arrived late. She's from Mexico. Yeah. So it'd be interesting, and it'd be nice to have some female energy in the Maloka. So that would be interesting, and it's someone else to hopefully to resolve to talk to, and we don't know if it's the first time yet either.
Yeah.
I'll ask Alan how he feels about maybe doing a chat, but really appreciate it. Fascinating stuff. Thank you very much, Colin, for coming.
Thanks for asking about it and talking a lot. We've had some good conversations just in the 2 days that we've been here.
Absolutely, it's great that you're here, and I'm really hopeful that. I'm pretty confident, but I don't know.
Oh yeah, I mean, if I feel this good after one, like I'm already.
Yeah.
You've
got from what you said, you've got a severe amount of trauma. In fact, there's something else we can talk about just on a purely psychological thing here. I'll send you something. Have you heard of the Adverse Childhood Experiences form?
No.
Right, well, I'll send it to you. There's 10 questions on there.
Yeah.
It's a guideline. It's not a metric that's definitive.
Yeah.
Because obviously different traumas compound each other.
Okay.
But there's 10 questions, and it's a loose starting place for psychologists.
Yeah.
That they give this form out, and there's questions on there like, were you ever made to feel belittled by a parent or a caregiver, primary caregiver?
Yeah.
Yes or no? Obviously, I wouldn't want to know what question it was, but you just count them up out of 10 and give a score, and this will give you an indication. I've got 8 out of 10. Yeah. And only in the last year I spoke to 2 people who have 9, and that involved sexual abuse.
Yeah.
In those 2 guys' cases.
Yeah.
And they're the only people I found who had more than me.
Wow.
Look, Helena, but again, it doesn't mean that you don't suffer just as bad, because if you think about it, you only need 1 really bad traumatic experience against someone who's had 5 not so traumatic to be still suffering from complex post-traumatic stress disorder.
Sure. Yeah.
And have it really, really badly affect their life in a negative way.
Yeah.
But it'll be interesting for you. I'll send you the form on
Yeah,
WhatsApp
that'd
in
be
a minute,
sweet.
so we'll
Yeah.
swap phone numbers.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's all. Look, perfect. Coming up to exactly an hour.
Look at us.
So we'll leave it at that. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's get it bang on an hour for the fun of it.